From LAist and APM, American Public Media, it's This Old House Radio Hour. I'm your host, Jen Largis. On today's show, how tool lending is changing DIY, making home projects more accessible through shared resources, one library card at a time.
We looked at tools that would have low level of physical risk so that anyone could actually come in and borrow these items and not have to have expertise.
From decibel levels to BTUs, Ross Trethewey helps us decode the surprisingly tricky task of buying a new air conditioner.
So when it comes to window kind of ACs and portable ACs, generally those are sized in BTUs. And so you really need to know the BTU load of the room that you're trying to handle.
Actress Embeth Davidtz shares the story of her 1920s plantation-style home on the North Shore of Kauai. All of this, plus we're answering your home improvement questions at 877-864-7460. Coming up next. You're listening to This Old House Radio Hour from LAist and APM. I'm your host, Jen Largis. What if the first step to fixing your sink didn't involve a trip to the hardware store, but to the public library? In Los Angeles County, tool lending is reshaping DIY and making access to tools a shared public resource. We pay a visit to find out how it's impacting the community. Sky Patrick is the library director of LA County's public library, and she joins us now. Sky, welcome to This Old House Radio Hour.
Oh, thank you, Jen. It's so nice to be here.
Oh, we're glad to have you. So what is the story behind the creation of the tool lending library?
Here in libraries, we have an adage that if someone has a great idea, steal it and cite it. So I believe the first tool lending library was up north in, I believe it was the Berkeley Public Library. 5 years, maybe even 6 years ago, a staff member came to us with the idea of expanding our assets, our borrowing capabilities to people who are working with tools, working with their hands. And borrowing is our whole mission. It's the whole way that we operate. So it made sense from that point of view, from that vantage point, and to also just really try to help and fortify people who are maybe working and living paycheck to paycheck, not having the kind of resources to buy these tools. And some of them, frankly, you only need once or twice a year.
Yeah.
So it was really from that vantage point that we initiated this program.
What are some of the tools that people can borrow in your community?
We have over 110 different tools you could borrow. So some of the more popular ones are power tools, hand tools, measuring tools, clamps, jigs. I'm not even sure if I know what that is. Electrical tools, gardening, things for bike repair, sewing machines, and clothing repair. Have you ever heard of a Cricut?
Yes, I actually have one.
I had never heard of a Cricut
very
before,
useful.
but apparently we have them. That's right. We have baking tools. We have automotive and car repair tools. We worked with the Department of Public Works to determine what kinds of tools would be best used in a borrowing capacity. So, we looked at tools that would have low level of physical risk so that anyone could actually come in and borrow these items and not have to have subject matter expertise. My personal favorite that I've checked out a few times is the power washer. What a handy tool. I go in every couple of months and I power wash my front yard, and I think I've done it without hurting or injuring myself. So I think this is a good thing.
Absolutely. What is the process of renting a tool? Are you able to walk through and see what's available, or is there a catalog somewhere?
So we have a catalog. It's online. All of our tools are within the county library catalog, what used to be called the card catalog. That's no longer called the card catalog. But we also have in our 6 locations that we have this program, you can go in and it's like a flip book. So you can go in and see pictures of it, how big it is, all the metrics, all the data. And then you would ask the person at the desk, at the reference desk or circulation desk, whether or not it's available if you hadn't already looked online to see if it's available.
Based on what you're seeing in your libraries, why do you think tool lending libraries are popping up all over the country?
It's interesting because I think the pandemic did a lot of things. It isolated us in a lot of ways. And so here in California specifically, where many of us have some semblance of outdoor space, I think people started to do more with their hands and start to remember that they had interests in learning to sew or bake, even maybe start planting a garden. Mm-hmm. And so I think the pandemic, in all of the ways that it was destructive, it was also an opportunity for people to take a step back to remember things that they've always wanted to do or always wanted to try. And then I think that kind of started blossoming into this tool lending phenomena, because I know that there are lots of other libraries who have brought on some semblance of a tool library. Some libraries call it the library of things. Mm-hmm. The pandemic gave us an opportunity to pause and then to think about other things we're interested in.
Yeah. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
That's my philosophy.
It's beautiful, and I think it's very true. What do you think is the next step for tool lending libraries?
The possibilities are infinite. There's so many different things and ways we could support our community. Yeah. We have our music program, our musical instruments, and we're working on a phase 4 where we'll have tools for people who are digital content creators, people who are interested in film and television. So we'll have cameras and tripods. So we're working on that now. We hope to have that up for next summer because we believe that there's still a creative economy in Los Angeles County, and there are people still here who are at the beginning of their career. I could see this building on itself, and the reality is we'll ask people, what do you need, and how can we support you? And that will inform how we shape-shift the tool lending library.
And if our local library doesn't yet have a tool library or have expanded into other items that are not books, what could we possibly do to encourage them to do so?
I would say that if your area of the country does not have a tool library, the first thing to do is to talk to your local librarians and say that you think that this might be a benefit to to your area of the country, and tell them that you heard it from Los Angeles County Library, of course. Similar to what you would do if there was a book that you wanted that wasn't at your local library, you talk to your local staff, and then the more interest, I think the more justification for this kind of programmatic enhancement.
Absolutely. I think everyone should encourage their library to test this idea. I think it brings so much value to the community, and we really appreciate what you guys are doing. Sky, thank you so much for being with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jen, for having me.
That was Sky Patrick, the library director of LA County. To check out LA County's tool lending catalog, visit lacountylibrary.com. You're listening to This Old House Radio Hour from LAist and APM. I'm your host, Jen Largis. Right now, we're tackling your DIY and home improvement questions. We've got an expert on site to help you get the job done right. Call us at 877-864-7460. That's 877-864-7460, and we'll match you with the right expert. Hello, you're on This Old House Radio Hour.
Hello, this is Josiah Gerhardt from Coudersport, Pennsylvania.
Hi, Josiah. What's your question today?
So I have a window in my downstairs above my kitchen sink. It's a crank-out window, and it's starting to rot on the outside. And I'm wondering if there's some way to kind of repair that, to kind of save it for a little while, or how do I go about maybe replacing it with double hung windows?
All right. We've got Charlie Silva, a builder for the show, and Zach Detmore, a general contractor for the show, on the line. Zach, where would you get started with this?
I guess I just have a couple questions for you, Josiah. Is this is the frame rotten, or the sash, meaning the part that moves, rotting?
So it's the part that moves. Like when you crank it out, it's at the bottom corner on the outside of the window when it cranks out.
Got it. And it's wood on the inside and wood on the outside.
Yes.
And is the frame on the outside clad with anything like vinyl or aluminum, or that's wood as well?
I have vinyl siding.
Well, what about the frame of the window that the window sort of nests in?
Yep. So that's wood.
That's wood as well.
Zach, for those who maybe aren't familiar, can you explain the difference between the different parts of the window? What is the sash?
Sure. So in this case, the window swings out so it's one unit that sort of pivots, and there's sort of the sash is just what operates, so what's swinging outwards, and then the frame is what that nests within. Josiah, do you know what manufacturer the window is by any chance? Like because sometimes it's possible to purchase a new sash, right, Charlie?
Right. I'm thinking it's if it's wood, it could be written on the hardware itself on the crank, and it could also be, for example, Anderson would have it on the glass itself in bottom left, bottom right corner, or something like that. It'll say AW, but look for the manufacturer that way.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I think it's an Anderson window. I'm not in my house to actually look at it, but I believe it might be an Anderson window. But my house was built in like the 20s, and I'm assuming, because I just bought this house within the last year and a half, that it's original to the house as well.
It's not original to the house, I'm sure, but if it's an Anderson, but
yeah,
it could be from the 70s, something like the 60s,
right?
If it's wood,
yeah.
How bad is the rot? Can you epoxy it and repair it? Is it not working at all right? Is the hardware falling off?
That's what I thought about, but on the outside you can kind of see where the bottom of the glass is starting to come through. So I didn't know if I could like put a chunk of wood in there, like a block of wood, and then kind of maybe Bondo around it or epoxy around it. Maybe at least to extend the life a little bit of it.
I mean, you could, but I would do what Zach said and try to see if you can find a replacement sash on it. And you might be able to find it. You could take a picture of it, measure the glass itself. So let's say it's 20 7/8 wide and 32 3/8 tall, glass to glass, right to the wood frame. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be within a 16th or a 32nd. Go there, take a picture of it. And if it is an Anderson, it'll have a date on the bottom of the window where the AW is also. And then you want that number, and there'll be a code number under it. And if you go to a dealer, and if they still make them, that's how you order it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to start, because the epoxy, I've never done an epoxy repair that I felt like this is going to last forever. It's usually like this is going to last until we're going to do a larger project on this house and repair it properly.
Right.
Yeah, that's my ultimate plan, is to eventually replace the windows downstairs, because I really don't care for the crankouts. Because you can't really put like air conditioners and stuff in them as well. So it's a little harder to do that for myself.
Yeah, probably wouldn't be a good idea to put that over the kitchen sink anyway.
Yeah, so see if you can identify anything on that window. Perhaps there's some information there that you could give to your Anderson dealer or whoever makes the window, and just swap it out. And it's pretty easy. Take you less than an hour once you have it.
Right. Good point.
Perfect.
Good luck, Josiah. I think you got this. I think it'll be easier than you think.
All right. Yeah, sounds good. Thank you, guys.
And take care.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Coming up, we answer more of your home improvement and DIY questions. Call us at 877-864-7460. That's 877-864-7460 on This Old House Radio Hour from LAist and APM. This Old House Radio Hour is supported by the Home Depot. Whether you're tackling a kitchen upgrade, organizing your garage, or building out that back deck, it's important to keep your projects on track. Fast, free delivery from the Home Depot makes it easy to get things moving in the right direction. If you're just starting out or you're stuck in the middle, the Home Depot has same-day and next-day delivery, so you can get what you need fast. Maybe you need a tool, more materials, some extra paint and supplies, or a battery to power your way through that project. Whatever you're working on, get fast, free delivery from the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Order select in-stock items by 4 p.m., subject to availability. You're listening to This Old House Radio Hour from LAist and APM. I'm your host, Jen Largis. Right now we're tackling your DIY and home improvement questions. We've got an expert on site to help you get the job done right. Call us now at 877-864-7460. That's 877-864-7460, and we'll match you with the right expert. Hello, you're on This Old House Radio Hour.
Hi, this is Micah from Encinitas, California.
Hey, Micah, what's your question?
So I believe I have a ghost in my electrical panel, but I'm hoping somebody can give me a better explanation than that.
This might not be the right show, but we'll try.
Well, walk with me for a minute. So
right.
Every time our electric vehicle would charge overnight, every GFCI outlet in the house would begin tripping. We've tried to recreate the problem a variety of ways, and in doing so discovered that if we charge the electrical vehicle during the day, when the power is coming from the solar panels, none of the GFCI outlets will trip. But as soon as we try to do it overnight, when it's drawing power from the grid instead, all of the GFCI outlets will trip. Currently, I am dealing with this by, before the car starts charging every night, going out to my electrical panel and turning off all the breakers that have GFCI outlets on them so that I can charge my car and sleep through the night without my house freaking out. And then in the morning, I have to wake up, go out to my panel, and turn all the breakers back on. That is masking the problem. I don't know what the problem is. I would love a solution.
Absolutely. Well, we've got Heath Eastman, an electrician for the show, and Zach Detmore, a general contractor for the show, here to help. Zach, I know you have questions.
I actually know exactly what's happening. You guys are going to be a little surprised by this one. So
I am going to be a little surprised.
I've seen this a couple times when switching to EVs, especially. There's, we forget how many oil barons made some of these great old houses, and a lot of them are particularly upset when you make that switch to the EV cars. Mm-hmm. So typically we work with a company that does really good seances. They specialize, in people who work for these oil and gas company ghosts. And that's typically what we recommend. But, I'll throw it to Heath in case he's got any other ideas. But, that's sort of just the first thing popped in my head,
Zach beat me to it. I was going to say a little sage or something. I don't know if get rid of some of those things.
Well, fortunately, I'm in Southern California, which means all that stuff is easily available.
That's fair. Yeah, Micah, it sounds like you already solved the problem. You unplug everything and charge during the day.
No problem.
Yeah, really. So I just need a little more background on what you charge. So the charger, do you have a level 2 charger, or are you plugging it into a standard 120 volt, wall receptacle?
No, it's a level 2. We had the charger wired specifically. While this is a sort of old house, it's not old by this old house standards. It was built in the 50s, and we renovated the house entirely. So the electrical system, everything from the panel, all the wiring, all the outlets, everything is brand new.
Okay, so you have a level 2 charger that was installed previously before the solar came in, right?
Correct.
And then solar comes in, and that's when you have the issue, is once the solar connection is done. Did you have that issue right away?
Yes, I think so, yeah.
Okay. It's a little strange. The only thing I can think of is we're going to have to trace it back to where they made this connection point back into the main panel. GFCI receptacle can trip when you touch the ground and the neutral. So if those two make contact, the GFI trips. If there is some kind of jumper still in place, or they're connected somewhere back at that panel, that still can be causing that issue when it tries to kick over. I don't know exactly how that would have been wired or how that would work, but that's about the only thing I can think of off the top of my head that would cause that to happen when it's, because you're not seeing it during the day when we're using more of the solar, right? You're only seeing when you go to utility at night?
Correct.
Yeah. So it sounds like wherever they made that connection point, something might be bonded together where it shouldn't be.
You're talking about where the charger comes into the panel, right?
It depends what they shuffled around. It could be where the charger comes in. It could be with however they're supplying it. Typically, if they're all tripping like this, there's some kind of issue where the neutral and the ground are bonded together somewhere where they shouldn't be. I mean, do you have GFCI breakers as well, or is it just receptacles?
The breakers are whatever the GFCI equivalent is. The acronyms are different in the panel.
Sure. So they're AFCIs?
Yeah, that's right. AFCI. Correct.
Yeah, so it trips a little bit differently. So the AFCIs aren't tripping, but the GFCI receptacles are. So the AF will be arc fault, and then the ground fault, has a lower level of tolerance, and it does something totally different. So, yeah, if that's tripping, that sounds like it's something along those lines if the arc faults aren't.
So if the next step is to try to find where the ground and the neutral are somehow bonded, how do I instruct the next poor sucker that I bring over to try to help me solve the problem?
I like how you referred to him as poor sucker. That's fair.
I've gone through 2 already. You guys are the third.
And I could be mistaken, but I can't think of any other reason that all the GFCI receptacles would possibly trip when you turn a car charger on.
Could they have messed anything up when they it sounds like they reshuffled his panel?
Exactly. Yeah. When they did the tie-in into the main electrical panel, something changed. And whatever changed during that tie-in is got to be part of what this issue is. Yeah. Did they move the breaker location for the car charger, do you know?
Yeah, they did reconfigure the panel. So the problem began after they moved stuff around.
Yeah.
But I've had the solar installers, their electricians come out to the house 3 times already. And the last time he left just shaking his head like, like he'd seen a ghost.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's really for an electrician to kind of dig in and start tracing some options out, try moving the breaker to different locations. I don't know what else would possibly cause it other than noise, potentially, but usually if it's tripping all of the GFIs, something's making contact between the neutral and ground there, I would guess.
We'll try to move the breaker around and see if in that process we can dislodge this. And then after that, we can call in the exorcist.
Yeah, sorry, this isn't car talk. This is where we fix house problems. Call someone else if you want your car fixed.
Fix houses and exorcisms. I mean, that's where it stops. All right. I mean, I hate to say it, but you may want to try giving someone else a call. It might cost you a little bit, but have them put eyes on it and see what they can find.
At a minimum, my electric panel will know that it remains undefeated.
Fair.
I was going to say, another one bites the dust. Here we go. Thanks for the call, Micah. Right now, we're taking your calls at 877-864-7460, 877-864-7460. Hello, you're on This Old House Radio Hour.
This is Jim.
Hi, Jim. Where are you calling from?
Tiverton, Rhode Island.
And Jim, what's your question today?
I have a front entrance door that's a wooden door with a wood frame that's not sealing against the weather stripping correctly, and trying to figure out how to straighten it out or replace the weather stripping.
All right, we've got Zach Detmore, general contractor for the show, here to help. Zach, what do you think's going on?
Hey, Jim, I've got a couple questions for you here. Could you describe the shape of that weather stripping? Is it like sort of a circular piece, or is it sort of shaped like a bit of an L that's kind of foamy? Describe that weather stripping.
It seems like it's probably like a rubber. It's almost like a half circle, and it's held in by a piece of mahogany that the frame is built out of.
This sounds like a nice front door.
Thanks.
Is the gap uniform around the whole perimeter, or is it worse in certain places?
It's mostly on the jam side.
On the strike side or the hinge side?
The strike side, sorry.
Strike side, gotcha. So it's semicircular, and is it being pinched by a piece of mahogany that's holding it in? Or if you were to remove that semicircular weather stripping, how would you remove it?
That's where I'm looking for a little guidance, because I'm afraid I'd have to remove a piece of mahogany that's part of the frame, and I don't want to ruin the frame. And I'm afraid if I pull the stripping out, I won't be able to get the new stripping in.
Sure, I gotcha. Typically, there is a channel or a kerf cut, for lack of a better word, that basically allows a spline that's attached to the weather stripping to slide into. So if you were to pull the weather stripping out, that spline should come out with it, and then you just have sort of a deep groove left. Have you tried pulling to see if that's the case at all?
I haven't. Where the door comes to the weather stripping, pretty significant gap. So I'm not sure if replacing the weather stripping is going to fill that gap in.
How many quarters could we stuff in that gap?
2.5.
I'm really landing on the fact that I think this weather stripping is just past its prime. So a lot of weather stripping that you'll see on conventional new doors is not circular or semicircular. It's sort of I don't want to say an L shape because it has a spline on it, but it sort of has a hinge-like mechanism when you press on it. So if there's a larger gap, it's still pushing against the door. And I think that's not happening with the door you have. So most manufacturers of high-end doors are going to treat the weather stripping as something that's removable for a couple reasons. One, because you can hide screws behind it when you're installing it. Two, they know that you have to paint these things, and masking off or cutting into the weather stripping is sort of suboptimal. And three, weather stripping wears out and needs to be replaced before the door does. So my hope, and I could be wrong, is that you're able to, grab the weather stripping with needle nose pliers, pull it out, and if that's the case, buy the type of weather stripping I'm describing, which is sort of like a foam wrapped in plastic, but a bit of an L shape. And I think that's going to solve your problem. Now, they do have different ones, so it's possible the first one you buy may not be the perfect fit because maybe the door has too much pressure and it doesn't latch easily. So you may have to play with it a bit, but I'm almost positive that will solve your problem.
Okay. First thing is to get a pair of needle nose pliers and start pulling out some weather stripping.
Yeah, sometimes you'll find it's hard at first because maybe they painted it or varnished it and that's what's holding it in. But my hope is it just pulls right out for you. And I would be surprised if they assembled it in a way that that's not the case.
All right. Well, I think I've got enough information to run and be dangerous.
All right. You got it, Jim.
Thank you very much for taking my call.
All right. Have a good one.
Right now, we're taking your calls at 877-864-7460, 877-864-7460. Hello, you're on This Old House Radio Hour.
Hi, it's Dennis from Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Dennis, what's your question today?
I'm hoping, first of all, I should say congratulations on the radio hour. I grew up in Tom and Norm with my dad, so super excited for this. I have a kitchen that was remodeled before I moved in, but I am absolutely hating the tile backsplash that we have. It's like a glass tile that was probably put on in sheets. Well, I think I'm handy. I'm a little worried about this turning into a major renovation. I see I've got a few options. I could certainly tile over it if we think that's good, or I could remove it, but I have no idea how to remove it cleanly. And I think the most important thing for me is not only to do it well, but try not to turn it into a full remodel because I do it the wrong way.
I don't blame you. Well, we've got Zach Detmore, general contractor, and Mauro Henrique, the painter for the show, here to help. Zach, have you ever done this kind of work, and how easy or not easy is it?
I have done this exact work, and I've been in situations where it was disaster city, and I've done it in situations where it went quite easily. It really depends on who installed the tile and what they used. I was going to say,
what's the determining factor?
Well, let's go on a little fact-finding mission, Dennis. How big's the kitchen in terms of, let's say, linear feet of backsplash?
Not too much. It's like a 2 10-foot counters, maybe a foot and a half high on each.
And is it all sort of a foot and a half, or does it go up behind the range?
It doesn't go behind anything, but I don't have a lip on my countertop, so it goes all the way directly down to the countertop and right up to the edge of the cabinets. So I'm also worried if I would, let's say, use an oscillating tool to take this out, now all of a sudden I have to try to match up drywall, and that seems like a nightmare without taking cabinets off.
And if you look at the fit and finish of the installation of all the components of this kitchen remodel, do you think the person who tiled it did a good job, or do you think they did a bad job? You know what I'm asking? What's the quality of this?
I actually think it's pretty good. Nothing that would be a red flag for me.
Darn it.
We were hoping there would be red flags.
I know. I was hoping the tiles were just jumping off the wall.
Almost falling off. Can you see the end of do they end and then there's wall after that? Can you see how thick these are?
Yeah, and I would say it's no more than maybe 3/8 inch tops, probably less than that, closer to a quarter.
What I'm guessing, and if you take off a receptacle cover, you might be able to see some of that adhesive sticking out. But my guess is they used a pre-mixed mastic instead of a mortar-based thin set. If you're up for a small repair, you could maybe find a discrete corner and rip off a little bit and see how it is. But if it's just coming off in the drywall staying, but the paper is kind of disconnecting, then it's really not going to be that big of a job. But if you find you're removing big chunks of drywall, then, prepare yourself to replace that drywall, which is irksome when you're working below a cabinet and above a cabinet. But it's not the world's worst project. But if you have to paint over it,
what are you looking to put in after this?
I was actually thinking replacing the tile. And that's why I'm playing around with the idea too. Like, does it make more sense to tile over it? Not being a professional, is that a completely acceptable idea, especially if I'm going to be here for a while?
I don't love the going over, the tiling over tile thing, because have to then get an electrician to, you have to bring those boxes out. And the tile, if it's glass, is hard to adhere to. What do you think? Mara? Have you ever done any of those coatings that go over tile in preparation for tile or to paint them?
Oh, can you paint it?
He can paint. He can choose a color. And the most important step on this is going to be a bonding primer that goes over the ceramic or whatever tile he has there. Get a good grip on it, and then you can finish it, with some good quality paint. It's an easy project.
My fear with the painting is whenever you paint a tile, then you have the grout is also painted, and it looks too much like an acrylic shower liner. So I think is
that not a look you prefer?
I think I'm team, rip it out and deal with the consequences. That's the team I'm on. But of course, I get paid to do this for a living, so I'm always trying to make a small job into a big job.
So what I'm hearing is to call you back in 3 days after I make a mess out of it.
Yes, definitely call me back. We'll give you a bogus
Zach's
number if you're not happy.
He's trying to get hired to come over. I removed the tile backsplash in our kitchen, and it was thin linear pieces of glass mosaic that were installed in sheets. And as I removed it, it did exactly what Zach said. It removed that paper facing on the drywall. And then I don't know if you can tie. I mean, I tiled right over that. I don't know if you're supposed to. I'm going to put that out here in the universe, but it went fine. And it's been years. We got very sturdy installation, so it can be done.
Yeah.
All right.
If you could, I would maybe recommend putting some primer on the paper facing to sort of get better bonding. So you're not trying to glue to something that's very dry, but in general, I think it's going to be okay. I think rip it out, go slow, try not to cause too much collateral damage, and it will be you'll be much more satisfied with the way it looks at the end. And the whole point of this project is to make the kitchen look better.
I love it. Would you have a recommendation on best tool to try to start taking the tile off?
Yeah, use a spackle knife.
Yes, spackle knife will be your best friend.
Take care.
All right. Take care, guys.
Take care. Coming up, we're going to help you purchase your next air conditioner with the help of our home engineer, Ross Trethewey. He's got what we need to chill out, literally. That's next on This Old House Radio Hour from LAist and APM. You're listening to This Old House Radio Hour from LAist and APM. I'm your host, Jen Largis. Coming up, Ross Trethewey breaks down everything you need to know before buying an air conditioner. But first, we head to the North Shore of Kauai, where director Embeth Davidtz turned a 1920s plantation-style cottage into a soulful island retreat for her family, channeling the spirit of old Hawaii.
Hi, this is Embeth Davidtz. I am both an actress and a director, and this is my old house. When my son was 1 and my daughter was about 3, friends invited us to the island of Kauai, which is the oldest of the Hawaiian islands. It's called the Garden Isle for a reason. It's just incredibly lush. I think it has the highest rainfall on Earth, so it's very, very green. We fell in love with the island first and foremost, and it was just beyond a dream to think, gosh, could we ever have our own place? We always would go back for at least a week in the summer and rent somewhere, and we'd walk up and down that main road, and my husband loves to look at properties, just anything. He's always poking his head in if there's an open house, just out of curiosity. And we spotted this house and he said, gosh, that would be the dream, right? That house there would be the fantasy. And it's one of those things in life when you go, gosh, that's the thing I would most wish and dream for. And then you put it out there and it happens. And then a few years later, we heard it was coming up for sale and we just got lucky. Sometimes I think you're meant to have a house. I think sometimes a house is meant to be yours. We just borrow houses. I don't think they belong to us. I think we were allowed to borrow it for our lifetime. And we even inherited the furniture that was in the house. I changed a fair bit of it. Some of it was blue and I just wanted everything to be white, but we had lovely old Hawaiian lamps and old Hawaiian posters. It's almost as if the things that we already owned in our life were going to belong there. You would think, how is it that I bought this beautiful lamp with a Hawaiian woman on it 10 years ago and now I actually have a home there? It was almost like we were laying the groundwork to live in that house. The house is set in the center of this wonderful crescent-shaped bay. It's painted green. It has a red tin roof. The walls are made of lava rock, which I love because everything comes from the island. We have a little door that the children will always call it the secret door because it has a secret handle. Everything's very relaxed in Kauai. We don't lock our doors. Nobody's super security conscious, which is lovely. You come through the secret door and then up a path where there's a reclaimed wood garage. I love that old wood because it came from an old barn that was built further down island. We're on the North Shore, and I loved that there was an old barn that had been torn down, but that somehow is part of our little house as well. From the living room, we actually built an outdoor shower. It's against a wall of lava rock. You stand on lava rock, which I don't know what it is about lava rock. You know that thing people say about grounding or standing on the earth? I swear to you, there's something that comes from standing on lava rock versus standing on a regular rock. It's rough, it feels good. When you step into the house, there's a wood that I didn't know about. To me, it's a slightly more reddish color. My husband was telling me that it's called ohia hardwood, which again, ohia is an island wood. Very, very smooth. The home, as you step into it, expands. So from the outside, it looks like a little house with this little tree house part that's at the top. As you step into it, there's tons of vaulted ceilings, lots of light. Everything is wood, painted white on the inside, painted green on the outside. And at first I thought, oh, a greenhouse, but you really understand that it's the way that the island homes are painted, and it's lovely to have one that's part of the way everything else is. Local Hawaiians that we've made friends with there have such a reverence for the island itself. Land is holy, and you're always reminded of it when you're there. I do recall a Hawaiian friend of mine saying this is the healing island. We had just bought the house and made our first trip over with the children. The kids and my husband were out swimming, and I was tired. I had a bit of a cold. I'm going to lie down. And I lay down, and this is the amazing thing. From the bed of that treehouse room upstairs, if you look to the left, you could see the mountains and the waterfall in the distance. And then if you turn to the right, it's the ocean. My Hawaiian friend had said, I want to bring this elder of the island. He's going to do a Hawaiian blessing over the house and over you people. We had done that the day before. So the next day I'm lying on the bed and I remember sort of putting my hands on my chest. I thought, I'm just going to close my eyes. And my left pinky, which was resting on my breast, felt something hard, like a marble, a lump in my breast. And it was lying on that bed in that position that made me find it. Cut to, my whole world is turned upside down. That lump ends up being breast cancer. I go home, we figure all of that out. I get treated. I'd gone through chemo and I'd gone through surgeries, and I finally got to go back to the island. And I was still very weak and I was still very beaten up by that August. But I remember as we took off at the end of that August, feeling I was healed. I think Hawaii saved me and then it healed me. I always think of that beautiful man that did the blessing over the family. My friend is like, yep, I told you this is a magical and healing place. And I think it led me to discover something that I didn't need to have in my body. And then after taking care of all of that, it closed the circle and healed me. So I think home for me is where my family is. And I have pictures all over that house of the children doing cartwheels on the beach. The house has given us that history, and it's a very, very deep history. It's interesting. You just get woven together with your kids. Life has been about their schoolwork, their sports, my work, my husband's work, but it's the time that becomes this kind of sacred time, and time stops, and that's where you actually exist as human beings in a playing and happy environment together, which doesn't have any pressures of life on it. So, and I think of the future, and it's where we see grandchildren coming to one day. My hope for my husband and I, as we get older, is just to spend more time. It's where I feel my best. It used to be Africa, but Kauai took that over in me. And I just sort of see it as a place where I hope can return to much more in the coming years.
Embeth Davidtz' directorial debut, Don't Let's Go to the Dogs Tonight, is in theaters now. When it comes to home improvement, making a major purchase isn't just about the price, it's about knowing exactly what you're buying. Every category and product comes with its own learning curve, and we're here to help you navigate it. We'll break down the terminology, walk you through the key features, and point out what to watch for. So when it's time to make that big purchase, you'll know exactly what works best for you. Joining us to go over the best portable air conditioners for your home is Ross Truthui, a building engineer for This Old House. Hi, Ross.
Hey, Jen.
So there seems to be new form factors for air conditioners these days.
There sure are. Yeah. You got the portable ACs, the ones that we know all too well, the unit that just sits in the room. It's got a bunch of alien tubes that come out of it that go to the window, and they basically take outdoor air into them and then reject hot air back to outside, and they take up space. They're noisy, but they work, they blow a cold air. And then you also have the window AC units. They even have the saddle style units. So these units sit inside of the window, but they saddle similar to what a saddle would have on a horse's back, that basically they wrap the window from outside to inside. So they allow it to kind of self-weigh itself on and support itself on the windowsill. So you don't have to put the big brackets on the outside of your house to hold that unit up and prevent it from falling.
Are portable air conditioners as effective as window conditioners?
They are effective. It's hard to say because it depends on how you're defining effective, right?
Yep.
Like the portable AC units have not had the same types of technology improvements that the window AC units have had recently. So they are a little less energy efficient, but they have similar airflows. They have similar capacities overall. So yes, they're similar overall, I would say. Okay. They're not a huge difference between those two technologies.
Now that we know what type of air conditioning units are available, what should our listeners know about purchasing a unit?
So when it comes to window kind of ACs and portable ACs, generally those are sized in BTUs. And so you really need to know the BTU load of the room that you're trying to handle, or the zone or area that you're trying to handle. And so most of the manufacturers have like a chart that tells you if you're this square footage on the sunny side of the building, use this BTU amount. And so you could get a little bit more scientific than that and run a, what we call a manual J or a load calc on that room. There's some DIY free versions of that online. But just knowing roughly square footage, you can equate that to a BTU amount, and that's what you want to do. You want to size and purchase the right size unit for that load of that room.
What happens if you're too low or too high?
Yeah, great question. So if you're too small, if you undersize it, then of course it's not going to keep the room at the temperature that you designed it for. So if you want it to be 74 degrees in that room and it's undersized on a 95 degree day, for example, it's going to go to 75, 76, 77 degrees. It's just not going to keep up. So if it's undersized, that's somewhat problematic for the comfort side of things. If you go too large, it's going to be, you're going to be purchasing a larger unit than you need. So it's going to be more capital cost up front. It's going to use more energy. It's going to be noisier, and it's going to be bigger and bulkier. So, so there's trade-offs of, too small or too big. Obviously, you have the pros and cons there. So getting a right size unit is really where you want to be. And if you're going to have it handle adjacent rooms, then you want to obviously size it larger. If the door's going to be open and you're trying to get some cooling to that next, into the hallway or into the nearby rooms, and try to move some of that cooling to other spaces, then you want to upsize it.
And how much do you really have to think about what part of the house it's in, whether it's the sunny side, shady side, maybe kitchen area? Any things to think about there?
Yeah. So if you think about the cooling system, that window AC unit, for example, what does it need to do? It needs to overcome all of the energy, the heating energy that building sees or that room sees. And so that's a function really of two major things. One is external gain and one is internal gain. External gain would be like sunlight and number of windows and how much of that hot outdoor air and solar gain is coming through from the outside to the inside. The other part of it is what's going on inside that room. So if you're in a kitchen, you got refrigerators, you got lights, you got stoves, you got ovens, you got a lot of appliances that give off heat. So the AC system has to overcome the internal gains of that space as well, versus a bedroom that might just have one or two people sleeping. So it's a lot less internal gain in terms of how much heat it needs to overcome for a bedroom than it does need to be for a kitchen. So if you have a typical kitchen, you might want to add 2,000 to 4,000 BTUs of additional load to account for those appliances. Where if you're just dealing with a single person, it's going to be somewhere in the order of 200 to 500 BTUs per person.
So what should our listeners know about the energy consumption of these units?
Yeah, so most of the window AC units that are on the market today are able to be plugged into a 120 volt receptacle. And so the smaller ones are going to draw somewhere between, 500 watts, give or take, so maybe 3 or 4 amps of draw. And then the bigger ones are going to consume, around 1,500 watts. So that's more like 12 amps of draw. So you're going to be somewhere between 3 and 12 typically for a small to large size window AC unit or portable AC unit. And so you want to be careful about plugging in your larger units, especially to a receptacle that's shared on the same circuit as other appliances, because that will cause the routine trip of a breaker or a reset on the GFCI.
How much is my energy bill going to shock me after I plug in one of these?
Well, so you could do some math, right? So you could say, hey, I've got, this size unit, what the amps are because it's right off of the cut sheet. And so you could say, hey, if this thing was running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you could do the math out and figure out exactly how much dollars it's going to cost you to run that unit, at least on a conservative side. And so the math to me is pretty simple. You take your amperage, right? You multiply by your voltage. That's 120 volts. So 4 amps times 120, it's going to be around 500 watts. You get your 500 watts. And then you take that 500 watts, you multiply by how many hours it's going to be operating. So 500 watts, let's say it's operating for a day. 500 times 24.
I'm getting a calculator now.
That's 12,000. Divided by 1,000 is 12. That means it's going to consume 12 kilowatt hours per day if it was running at 100%. And so if I multiply by my utility rate, what do you pay for electricity, right? If some places might be 10 cents a kilowatt hour, some places might be 30 cents a kilowatt hour. But if I just do where we are here, let's say at 30 cents a kilowatt hour, which would be high, that's going to be $3 a day, roughly.
Oh, that's not as shocking as I thought it would be. And it sounds like some newer units are obviously more energy efficient. Are there any other sort of new features that might be helpful?
Yeah, so most of the new units are coming out with internet connectivity. So a lot of them can be connected to your local Wi-Fi. So they're going to be able to be controlled from a smartphone app, on your phone. A lot of them can pull in local weather data, which is nice to have. Some of them have special features like sleep mode or timer delays. So let's say you don't want it to be on through the entire night, or let's say you want it to shut off when you go to work in the morning. There's different kind of scheduling that can be put into those units or a lot of the units. Some of them go to air quality monitoring, which is a nice thing to have to know what the air quality is. And then some of them even go a step further with dry mode, with dehumidification. So to help dry out the air in the house, they run the compressor and kind of into overdrive and try to get as much moisture out of that air as possible and keep the house nice and dry.
Interesting.
Yep.
So I'm ready to buy an air conditioner. What are the things that I need to know as I'm going to the store to purchase other than sizing the unit?
Sizing, and most important, second thing would be the fit. You have to make sure that you have a window that can accommodate the size of the unit. So this is going to be more of a concern about narrow windows. You got to make sure that you can fit it. You also got to think about the support systems. If you're going with the non-saddle style, you're going to have a bracket on the outside of your house or your apartment to support the weight of the outdoor portion of that unit, and also prevent the fall hazard. You also want to make sure that you have the proper weather stripping and sealant around the window AC unit or the portable AC unit where it goes to that window, because you want to make sure you don't get critters and you don't want hot air obviously getting, coming through the window. So you want to seal up that window around the unit as much as possible. Yep. And definitely check your noise level. That's another one that's a big one. A lot of these can be, high 50s. That's way too, and from a decibel perspective, you really want to get one that's in the 40s and ideally into the high 30s. But if you get one in the 40s, that's going to be a much quieter unit, because decibels are logarithmic, which is just a fancy way of saying that a 10 dB drop is a halving of the perceived loudness. So it's like a 10 dB drop. It's like a 50% change in sound. So you might think like, oh, I'm going from 54 to 44. How much can that make a difference? Like, that's a big difference. That's a really big difference. Yeah.
Well, Ross, this is great information. And as always, we appreciate your expertise and we appreciate you being here.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks for having me.
Call This Old House Radio Hour's home repair hotline at 877-864-7460 and we can help you out. We're nearly at the end of the show, which means it's time for the Simple Fix.
Hey Jen, it's Zach Detmore, a general contractor for the show, and this is my Simple Fix. Looking to mount a TV or towel bar or perhaps a picture with 2 mounting holes? My Simple Fix is use masking tape. Simply take a piece of masking tape, stick it to the back of the picture or towel bar you're trying to mount, mark out the 2 holes using a pencil and poke a hole. Take the masking tape off, stick it on the wall on a nice level line. You'll have exactly perfect layout and no measuring tape needed.
We'll see you next week on This Old House Radio Hour. Our show is distributed by and co-produced by LAist Studios and APM, American Public Media. This Old House Radio Hour was created and produced by Ember 20. Listen to new episodes of the podcast every Tuesday on your app of choice. You can follow This Old House on all the socials at This Old House, all one word. We'll see you next week.
Poetry has the power to connect our inner universe and the outer world. I'm Maggie Smith, poet and host of The Slowdown, a podcast from American Public Media. Each weekday, find time to take a breather from your to-do list, or doom scrolling for that matter, and take in a moment of reflection with a hand-picked poem. Listen to The Slowdown wherever you get podcasts.